Oh man, this paycheck's nothing. Why am I getting taxed so hard?
Sup, dork?
Oh, hey.
So, I hear you're pretty upset about taxes, my man.
Yeah, it's stupid. I mean, why should I have to pay so much of what I make when I'm barely able to make a living?
Totally get it. You're not alone in that, man. In fact, lots of people don't think it's fair, and they think that the rich should pay more taxes.
To hell with the rich. Of course they should.
You know, there was a Oxfam report published in 2019 showing that the richest 26 people in the world own as much as the bottom half of humanity, which is roughly 3.8 billion people.
You're kidding.
Nope. Say, why don't we go for a drive and I'll tell you more? Mind if I drive? You know, tax percentages have shifted a lot over the last several decades. In the 1950s, the wealthy were paying much higher taxes than the poor and the middle class, but their taxes have been plummeting ever since. Trump's 2017 tax cut pushed the tax rate on the 400 wealthiest households below the rate for almost everyone else. You know, I read that in an article on the New York Times a few weeks ago.
So the rich really are being favored here, huh?
Absolutely. Are you ready yet?
Yeah.
So, another fun thing about this argument with the taxation is that nobody can seem to agree. Here, read this article on my phone. I'm gonna keep an eye on the road.
Economists can't seem to agree on whether or not raising the marginal tax rate would ultimately be beneficial for the U.S. economy. Ocasio-Cortez has proposed increasing the marginal tax rate on income above $10 million to 70% in an effort to reduce the nation's wealth inequality and fund the Green New Deal, a massive policy proposal aimed at addressing climate change. One economist, Marshall Steinbaum, research director at the Roosevelt Institute for Market Power and Inequality, says a 70% marginal tax rate isn't even high enough. I think we know now that the economy did much better back when the top marginal tax rate was 91%, he says. Chris Edwards, director of tax policy studies at the Cato Institute, disagrees. It should be much lower. It should be as low as we can get. It's not reality. We're not going back up to a 70% tax rate, Edwards says. What would happen if we tried to raise our rate that high is that you'd get massive tax avoidance and evasion. Wow, this is all pretty sticky stuff, man.
But wait, there's a little bit more. Keep reading.
Steinbaum says that taxing the wealthy actually offers a way of bringing this country together, and there's a broad public support for a higher tax rate. A Politico/Morning Consult poll released in early February found 76% of registered voters in the U.S. believe that the wealthiest Americans should pay more taxes.
All right, so there's this other article I really like. It's by The Perspective. It has 3 arguments for taxing the rich and 3 against. I'm going to read you one, and I'm going to have you read the other.
Okay.
It's about fairness. The rich, by definition, have a lot of money. In fact, the top 1% control close to 40% of the nation's wealth. Of the richest 400 Americans, the country's 3 richest people have as much wealth as the bottom half of the nation's citizenry. Meanwhile, 43 million Americans live in poverty, with 500,000 homeless on any given night. Even with higher tax rates, the country's wealthiest will be fine. Billionaires like Warren Buffett and even Mark Cuban, conservative, attend to this, having said that they would be willing to pay more in taxes, but the government to provide basic housing, nourishment, healthcare, and education to the rest of the citizens, the money must come from somewhere. For the most fortunate to fail to pay their fair share would be a moral failure. Here, why don't you go ahead and read the next one?
First, let's define fairness. Fairness means that Americans reap the rewards of their labor. that what they earn inherently belongs to them and not to the government to redistribute as it sees fit, and that the path to prosperity is through hard work and success. Even through a flat tax under which the rich pays the same tax rate as lower earners, the wealthy will still end up paying more in absolute terms since they have a higher amount of income to tax. But by any reasonable definition, the amount paid by the rich is already beyond their fair share. For example, in 2015, the top 1% earned 16.5% of income, but paid a staggering 43.6% of federal income. Meanwhile, more than 44% of Americans pay no federal income tax at all. Entrepreneurs and business owners should not be penalized for their success.
All right, so now that I basically helped you figure out all of your tax problems, I think you owe me a pizza.
Wait, what? No, that doesn't make sense. You didn't really teach me. Oh, okay. So, what's your opinion on all this?
Oh, the pizza? It's amazing.
No, I mean, like, do you think the rich should be taxed at a higher rate?
Totally. I think it's ridiculously unfair. There is no reason why any one person should hoard so much money. It should be shared with the rest of the world, but a little secret keep between you and me.
Sure, I got no one to tell.
I don't think I've paid taxes a day in my life. System's corrupt, man, I'm telling you.
You're committing tax evasion? That's terrible.
Whoa, hey. Not so loud, buddy.
No, I'm serious. That's messed up. What about me and the other hundreds of millions of people working our asses off to pay our taxes? That's not fair. That's very illegal. You know what I mean? What the hell? Why does this always happen on the weekends?